Damn it. We'll do it live again.
Tracks of the ride. According to witnesses, she was jumping from car to car.
Idiot.
And to the track where she was dragged under a moving car at least 50 feet before the ride stopped. She was airlifted to Orlando Regional Medical Center, where she underwent emergency surgery for head and face.
So,
I'm trying to read that one because most times it's really just like someone has a heart attack and dies.
If you are on the ride jumping from car to car, then you deserve
It's
it.
good, bro.
If it happens to you bad, sorry, brought on by you and fuck you.
You deserve to become
Trying
a
to shake
thousand
off the
days.
interception
Whoa,
from the
read the
last
fucking
drive. He'll
possible
look to
one,
throw.
dude. That's fucking
And from the
whoa.
25,
Is
they
it
work
crazy?
this to the
Yeah, read it.
29, a gain
In
of
March
4.
2010, a
You
4-year-old
got the
boy
big
from
lead
San Diego,
defensively.
California, suffered
Willing to
severe
give him that
burns to his
underneath stuff,
face
right?
and neck
And this
after
is why
being
you work on your
scalded by a tray
tackling.
of hot
Tackle
nachos.
him after the catch, inbounds, keep the clock running, just rush and bleed the
When
game
the
out
boy
that
sat
way.
down to dinner in an
That one, a
unstable
first down
chair
pickup of
and
8.
grabbed a food tray to
That was a
prevent himself
route
from
run
falling,
not just
resulting
with
in the cheese
dexterity,
falling off
but
the
with
food tray to his
intelligence.
lap. The
Found
parents
the
of the
hole in the
child
zone,
sued
made sure
Disney,
the quarterback
with their
saw
attorney
it, and
claiming
was
the
able to make
cheese
the
should
sure
not have been
catch
that
and
high.
flip the
I
down
think that's
marker
probably
back.
true.
I think that's right.
Love now
And
to
Disney
pass
made
on
no effort to
first
regulate or
down.
monitor the temperature of the
And his
nacho
throw's gonna
cheese is
be
being served to young
incomplete.
children. A
Another
Disney
throw
representative
there
commented
off
on the
the
incident.
mark,
It's
and obviously
unfortunate when
he's
any
battled
child is
all of the
injured. We just received
interceptions.
notice of
Things
the
just
lawsuit
haven't
and are
been
currently
true to
reviewing
form
it.
for
That
him. I
family
don't
got
know what do you
paid. I
think's going on
guarantee you.
out
Hey
there,
there,
CD.
citizen of the
That's a
galaxy,
great
come into
question,
Cosmic
and my
Rain Starlight
suspicion
Cafe
is
for our
he's been
special
coached really
nuclear
well
nacho
to not
cheese.
show that he's having
Burn
a
the
problem.
skin
You know,
right
they
off
always
your
tell you no
kid's
matter
face.
what, you keep throwing the football
Why,
with confidence.
why would
Well, we're
nacho
not
cheese
seeing a
ever need to
confident
get
thrower
that
right
hot?
now. He's
No,
off
it doesn't.
balance, the
It's
passing
funny too.
game's
Something
off
McDonald's
balance,
for with
and
the
the
coffee,
defense
and
is
people
taking
like
advantage.
it's bullshit.
And he'll
It's
be
like,
brought
dude, the woman
down
that
right around
they
the
spilled coffee
37.
on, or she spilled the coffee on
That's
herself,
going
had
to bring up
third-degree
fourth
burns. So
down,
yeah,
only a gain of
The
2
nacho cheese
there.
should be hot.
I should not
Listen to how these fucking fuckers
Got to
in these
try it here.
costumes
He's
suffer,
back
dude.
to throw.
Oh shit, dude. In 2005, Walt Disney World
And
reported
now here's
773
another
injuries to OSHA for
interception.
employees portraying more than
Isaiah Simmons picking
270
it
different
off.
characters
And
at
a
the
huge
park.
return as he'll
Of
take
those
this
injuries
one all
listed,
the way down
282,
inside
roughly
the 30-yard
36%,
line.
were related to costuming
Well, I
issues
saw
such
the
as
pressure
costume
coming
weight
at him.
affecting
That
the
just
head,
looked
neck, or
probably
shoulders.
hit him as he threw it.
49
First round
injuries,
knockout.
6% were specifically due to the
The man who
costume.
stood in this spot before, he
107
always
injuries,
talked about
14%
how
were
much
caused
pressure
by
is in the
parks
face of a
guests'
guy,
interactions with
and
the
can he
characters
step
where the
into a
guest
throw.
hit,
And when you can't do
pushed, or
that,
otherwise hurt.
oftentimes
Dude,
interceptions
this is the most
result.
fucked up one.
Philadelphia
Like,
getting
the other
set to
shit is
take
like,
the
that just
field.
sucks because there's too much weight on their body. But people actually go to these theme parks and assault people who are just there to be Tigger or whatever, you know what I mean?
I'm gonna go kick Mickey's fucking ass.
You know, yeah, exactly. You know, that it's like,
Fuck you, ER, you piece of shit.
like, why are you assaulting someone who's just dressed up as for fucking children, dude? Like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's just a portion and some
Bunch of issues with skin rashes, bruises, sprains, and heat-related shit. And they had, apparently Disney, one of the changes they made was to reduce the overall costume weight by at least 25%.
Whoa, dude, read the Donald Duck.
Yeah, dudes.
So
Yo.
football will be at the 25
Donald,
yard
you're crazy.
line as this offense
A
gets set to take
27-year-old
over.
woman from Upper Darby,
On first and
Pennsylvania,
10,
filed a
Love.
lawsuit in August of 2010
Musgraves
against
got
the
it
Disney
outright,
Corporation,
and
claiming
they're
that the
able to
Donald
get
Duck
this one
character
across the
groped her.
35.
Give me a photo.
Nice way to start the drive. A gain of 12 and a first down. Now another timeout called for by the offense as he'll get a chance to talk it over after picking up the first down.
Duck tits.
On play action, Love to
Session May
throw.
2008. While she was
And
saying
his
he was
throw
visiting
here's
the
incomplete.
lawsuit for $200,000 in
I can't. I actually can't do it, guys. Super simp.
Infliction of emotional distress and intentional and
Dude,
reckless
this
infliction.
just sounds like someone wants to get paid at this
The
point.
woman claims to suffer from severe physical injury. What?
Yeah, they just
How hard did he grope that tit? Emotional anguish.
And Charles, if you're the
distress,
coach of the
acute
losing
anxiety,
team,
headaches, nightmares, and flashbacks.
I mean, if you got felt up by Donald Duck, you might have a couple nightmares. You know what I mean?
Dude.
The jelly bean is a colorful treat, but unfortunately, no one is exactly sure when the jelly bean was invented and how. It's believed that the jelly center dates back to biblical times as a candy called Turkish delight. Many centuries later, the outer shell was added, thus making jelly beans we know today. Jelly beans come in a large variety of colors, even though they only come in one flavor. To make jelly beans, liquid is heated in a large kettle to 347 degrees Fahrenheit. Solids are then mixed into the liquid as an agitator blends it all together. Meanwhile, at a local cocaine production plant, things are going great. This massive amount of Colombian nose candy is worth up to $400,000. Normally, the cocaine would be scraped off the machinery, but this cartel is so ludicrously wealthy and powerful that they have completely stopped giving a shit. In a plot twist you didn't see coming, molds are pressed into the cocaine to be filled with liquid sugar, which will form the jelly beans. Jelly Belly, the most popular brand of jelly beans, are known for their vast array of narcotics connections. The jelly bean centers are then moved to a drying room to cool and harden for 24 hours. Notice how some of the cocaine spills into the batch, adding to the jelly bean's addictive quality. Arms flip the trays into a drum that will separate them. Half of them will continue into the candy factory, while the other half will wind up on the streets of Southside Chicago. The dry jelly bean centers then tumble into a wire mesh conveyor. Notice their clear white color, a byproduct of their production being so closely tied to stimulants. The jelly beans then ride through a sugar vapor condenser and into a sugar drum. The drum tosses the beans in sugar until they eventually become 99% sugar and 1% bean. In another part of the factory, Liquid returns. And this time he's not alone, joined by anti-hero Blue Liquid. And with a little help from his sidekick, Wage Slave, Liquid tries to stop the growing drug problem directly at its source. After the beans are thwarted, the literal fourth gigantic helping of sugar is added to the batch. But don't celebrate too quickly, because then the nefarious supervillain Red Liquid joins the party. Racism.
Right away. Finds his receiver, Watson. And he's out of bounds, able to take this one up.
Then a little wax is added, because most people hate when things taste good. The wax coats the candies to make 90% of this process pointless.
Love gonna give this one to Jones. And he'll get this up to about the 40.
I love Hug Speed videos.
Then the jelly bean stops spinning.
Hug Speed. He's my favorite. He's one of my favorite creators. It would be a dream to work with this guy. He is one of the funniest lads.
Air dry.
You're not as creative as you think. Anyway, back to the video.
If the beans spin for too long, they may turn purple, indicating they have become spoiled and poisonous. Do not eat purple jelly beans.
Do not eat those purple jelly beans.
And finally, as all the jelly beans mix together and move to the packaging area, We Here at How It's Made would like to apologize for doing an episode on jelly beans. We all know they're disgusting, and one of the worst candies ever made, but we felt obligated in our educational duties to show you where these vile hellspawn came from. We apologize to anyone offended by the fact they had to learn about jelly beans. And if you enjoy eating or talking about jelly beans, please consult professional counseling.
Yeah.
There are people who can help.
Actually, that's not true. In the abridged version of the How It's Made video, it turned out that the narrator had to state that therapy is no longer available for the Jelly Bean addicts. See what, if there's a new Greg video.
After this video, your life is...
Hello, and welcome to the DSM 6.0 patch update notes. The DSM 5 has been out for over a decade now, and players are eager for an update. We're going to keep the foundations of what worked in DSM 5.0 while adding new strategies we think you're going to find very interesting. First of all, we're going to buff BPD people and those in relationships with them. We obviously wanted borderline personality disorder to be an interesting class to play, but we found that the risk-reward is kind of off. BPD people require too much resource management from their teammates. We made BPD people hotter to address this, but it's hard to strike the right balance between crazy and hot. The BPD class is going to remain equally crazy, but we're going to make them 25% hotter to accentuate both their strengths and weaknesses. We've kept autism relatively the same, but we've decided to give it to everybody in this next patch. That's right. You get autism, and you get autism, and you get autism. We've made a lot of changes to the eating disorder subclass. In general, we've decreased stigma by about 25% and really encouraged male players to get in on this. Bulimics have been given a projectile attack that does toxic damage over time to their target. Pika has a new ability that allows you to treat crafting items as consumables, eat plastic and nails in order to regain health. Projectile attacks have a percentage chance of bouncing off the fat of the binge eater. And anorexics have been given a new skeleton skin, although we're currently working on a bug where the skin doesn't quite fit on them right. We've heard complaints that the new Ozempic meta has been too effective in managing eating disorder downsides. But don't worry, we've actually balanced this very well. You'll find out why in about 10 years. We've also added gender dysphoria, which is when you see yourself as having gender dysphoria when you don't actually have gender dysphoria. We've also added more kinds of dysphoria to keep the class more varied. As well as crossing the gender divide, you can also accentuate the gender divide by going from male to hypermale or female to hyperfemale. We've added a new adult expansion pack to ADHD, and we've also massively increased the rate of ADHD across the board. We've also added an extremely powerful attack to ADHD players that they can use if they channel it for only 2 hours. However, in playtesting, for some reason they weren't able to get this move off. We haven't made any changes to schizoid personality disorder because we haven't heard anything from their player base. We really would like some feedback from schizoid personality players, but we're just not hearing any. We've increased the positive symptoms for schizophrenic, so the render distance of their hallucinations has increased. Speaking of which, we've buffed addictive personality disorder by giving them an increased variety of consumables and more options to acquire their consumables. Before, addictive personality disorder players would have to acquire their consumables in dangerous dungeons and back alleys. But now they will be able to purchase more of these substances at the local shopkeeper. With enough of these, we hope that they'll be able to rank up towards schizophrenic. We've increased the number of personalities that dissociative identity disorder players can have equipped at one time. This should help the class have more combat and charisma check variety. This does, however, increase the skill ceiling of having multiple personalities active at the same time, so we're on the lookout for new players to make sure it's still accessible. We've also added the ability to have animals as alters. Anxiety has never been quite as debilitating as we would have liked, so to put them more in line with other classes, we've added more quick-time events and reduced their predictability. Just kidding, that wasn't one of them, but who knows when it's going to come. The first boss that defeats a PTSD player will be the same boss they have to fight over and over again, except it gets stronger and stronger every time. Even when the PTSD player will defeat it, it still comes back stronger. This is going to force PTSD players to have to rely on their allies in order to overcome the boss. We've increased the recovery time for Bipolar's Manic episode. Bipolar's Manic ability was just too strong, so the depressive recovery phase is now going to be about 25% long. Tourette's players now have a buff that can spread Tourette's to other players. OCD players are no longer allowed to wash their hands. Antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder have been too annoying to their enemies, so we've made both of them do increased damage to their teammates. Moving on to consumable items. The antidepressant consumable item has been deemed too effective, so we're going to be reducing its efficacy from 20% to 10%. We're going to buff some classic 1.0 consumables, though, like nicotine and alcohol, in order to balance this out for depression players. Antipsychotics have also been deemed too effective, so we're going to increase side effects across the board. Hopefully, this should just be a full lobotomy. And we've decided to not tell you about post-SSRI erectile dysfunction. That's something that we hope the player base finds out for themselves. In terms of environmental hazards, we're going to reduce the incidences of PFAs causing autism, add leaded gasoline back into cars to hopefully increase violent behavior, and start scaling back on TikTok. TikTok has obviously increased our player base tremendously, but our servers just cannot handle all the new players right now. We hope you're as excited as we are for the 6.0 update. Our players are our #1 priority, and we couldn't have done this without you. We hope this patch up.
Excuse me, can you help me a minute?
Just on their side of
with me. The night your wife was pregnant, you cheated on me with a porn star. I want you to do that to me, Buster Brown.
Hey everybody, it's Friday, June 28th. We're coming to you a day later than usual, obviously, to provide some reaction to last night's historic presidential debate. CNN was calling it the unprecedented presidential.
Wrong episode.
Oops.
After a week in American politics, unlike any I've seen in my life, we have assembled the full spectrum political coverage to dive into it today. Joining us is Josh Ettinger-Mentum and Dave Weigel, here to answer the question that's on everybody's mind. How do you beat Mesmer the Impaler in Shadow of the Erd Tree?
Yeah.
Josh, go.
Yeah. So I'm going to get into that. This was a weird decision they made when they, for these bosses. There's actually a summon sign, right at the start of the arena, not before it, but right when you get into it, and you can summon Hornsent, actually. He has some cool voice lines. Not as good as Egon, but, it's pretty nice. And he helps a lot.
Oh, I just sent the guy to kill Hornsent.
Oh,
I killed Hornsent the first chance I got. I'm sorry, if you don't fucking kill Hornsent the first shot that you have, you would go on birthright as a 37-year-old man. The Hornsent are the closest equivalent we've had to Israelis in the universe of Elden Ring. Their conduct, their attitude, just the first time you talk to Hornsent. When you meet all of Mikla's companions, everyone is kind of charming and interesting, and then you talk to Hornsent, and you're like, you're the biggest fucking freak I've ever met. I can't wait to kill you. And you do, and it's great. So I didn't even know that he could be summoned, much less that anyone didn't just murder him the first chance that they got.
I did his quest, and it's important for, if you're a real slow burn, Hornsent hater, because when you get his armor set, it reveals that he shat himself and he has shit in his pants the entire time.
All right, okay. I can see the value in that. I think going back to Mesmer has incredibly cool powers. He has, you get the most bang for your buck out of his remembrance. It's an incredible incantation and weapon.
Yeah.
And his voice lines are awesome. And he was left in a hot car. What else can you say about the man?
Well, yeah. I think the question that's on everyone's minds right now, what's really just coursing through the nation right now, is it legitimate for Biden to continue running for president by using the mimic tier and or summons that are available to him?
Yeah, the game is designed around it. Look, if they didn't want Joe to summon Frank Biden, his brother who looks exactly like him but slightly wider and who has a tankier HP bar, they should have written a law against it. They didn't. They clearly. Why does Frank Biden have extra lines of dialogue that he can say in front of Trump if you're not supposed to bring him out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to go through all those quests if it wasn't a utility you could use in the battle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not easy to get him. You have to go through the Delaware catacombs. You have to find the crown of DuPont. You have to find the crown of DuPont. That isn't easy. You have to learn the gesture that you get from visiting Beau Biden's grave, and you have to do it in front of the DuPont HQ. It's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Will America make it through the DLC? I don't know in light of this recent spate of Supreme Court decisions. But let's just start with, like I said, this was a week in American politics. It was truly extraordinary. And I'm going to just preface whatever I say on this show is likely to be irrelevant by tomorrow, if not the time you listen to it. But I want to start with Dave. Dave, what are you hearing? Like, what is the word now on like where Biden's at? Because everything I'm reading from the New York Times is that like he's hunkered down with his family, and they're encouraging him to stick it out, and like this was just a blip, a bad debate, and they're trying to tamp down panic. Is it working?
It is not working. It is true that they're very bunkered. They're very bunkered. In ways, though, that have made things worse, because Democrats have phones and we know them and we can talk to them. And anyone who's had conversations with people, I happened to be with Bernie on Saturday after the debate, and he did not sugarcoat it. One of his lines was, "Look, the president's not a very good debater. He's not a very good speaker." But it's just everyone is going between this was awful and maybe we can salvage it to this is so bad that we need to switch him out for probably Kamala Harris. And only today, as we're talking, there's one Democrat, Lloyd Doggett, who represents Austin, Texas in the House. He said that. He said he has nothing to lose. He's in a safe seat. He's in the 70s. He just said, yeah, I'm being realistic here. This guy can't win. The best case scenario for them right now is that a bunch of people say the president is too old. We've been lying to you about how he isn't, and then he keeps running, which seems suboptimal. Yeah. I don't know. That's not great.
Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, this may sound stupid, but I was kind of fascinated by how like unspinnably bad it was. Like nobody even tried to say, oh, he told the truth or his policies were good, which is rare. You usually see them spin practically anything now. Like, the fact that they admitted it was bad was kind of shocking to me a little bit.
Yeah, the only guy who attempted to spin it with this, like, newish turn of phrase was Theo Bungler. I was shocked. I was shocked when Theo Bungler said, hey, we all have bad debates. Like, this is a conversation about a bad debate performance, not the most shambolic and old flashing HP bar candidate we have ever seen in the history of presidential politics since they've been televised.
Yeah, a 90-minute medical episode.
Yeah, bad debate is not a phrase that really covers or summarizes any of this. That's really, I don't know. I don't know if that was a bungler, like, trying to shank Biden or what. But, like, it was just, it was a very pathetic attempt that I don't think anyone really bought.
I was in Atlanta for the debate, and they separate out where the candidates are from where the media is. That's pretty normal. They have the surrogates come in the room afterwards. And so before the debate, I ran into Gavin Newsom, and one of the questions I said was, hey, is this going to end the year of speculation that they're going to have to swap him out for somebody else? He said, 100%. It's ridiculous to keep asking that. And then I think really 10 minutes into the debate, it was very clear in the room. You can hear other reporters working and talking and etc. And it was just when he couldn't land the plane on the Medicare answer and say, we finally beat Medicare, that's when I heard 6 people around me who were all silent that go, like just like sharp punch in the gut, exhaling. One of these people, the golf moment was when he just said, Jesus Christ! That wasn't me. That was somebody near me. But, yeah, no one had experienced debate this bad at this level before. And Democrats are saying, yep, you're right. It was that bad. But, and that was the Obama answer, well, I guess.
I mean, the problem with the but here, and I just want to turn to the New York Times. This is an article by Katie Rogers and Peter Baker. It says, Biden's family tells him to keep fighting as they huddle at Camp David. And it says here, Mr. Biden huddled with his wife, children, and grandchildren at Camp David while he tried to figure out how to tamp down Democratic anxiety. While his relatives were acutely aware of how poorly he did against former President Donald Trump, they argued that he could still show the country that he remains capable of serving another 4 years. And I think the problem with that is, like, you can acknowledge how bad he did in the debate. Like, I think you guys got it exactly right. Like, this is not a bad debate issue. What has happened with this debate is that the paradigm has shifted, and now the question of Biden's cognitive capacity, like his mental and physical faculties, are now fair game for journalists. I mean, like, now people are going to talk about it. They can't push it behind the curtain anymore. I mean, like, we've been talking about this since 2020 at the very least. But, like, now the question is out there, and every next time he screws up or, like, can't finish a sentence speaking off the cuff, it's going to compound the problem. It's going to get exponentially worse.
Okay, if anyone could do this, if anyone would do this and not acknowledge it and think it was totally fine, it would be the Democrats. But how do you come back, not just from that, not just from everyone thinking that, like, you know, you're probably weeks away from death, from, it is literally without precedent. Not just that, but, like, pretty much 70% of the people who actually matter in the party going, yeah, we can't do this. He's too fucking old. He's too fucking old and infirm, and this is humiliating. How do you come back from that, from your entire party saying that they enter a QuickTime event whenever they're within 20 feet of you? If they didn't already have enough stuff, if they didn't already have enough moments of video and just baffling Biden shit, like when he said Donald Trump cheated on him, Joe Biden, with the porn star that he was pregnant with, I believe. They now have, Jamie Raskin and all these people saying this is untenable.
Yeah, it's the politics of resentment, I think. It's this is something that I spent some time in 2023 just trying to figure out how his administration worked, and especially after Gaza, how their foreign policy worked. And resentment is just a key word that goes back into all of this. They see everything as everything that happens to them as this story of them overcoming adversity and the haters and the doubters. And it's really kind of funny because the arc is nobody thought we could win in the 29, in the primary when they led for all of 2019. Nobody thought we could beat Trump at race they led from start to finish. Nobody thought we could do well in the midterms, which were races he didn't run in. And yeah, it got to the point where they were trying to take credit of Andy Beshear winning in Kentucky. You're yeah, that was all you, man. That was, yeah. There's this the opening, the thing. I think the moment that made me kind of go from oh, he's just kind of a regular Democrat, kind of look at him the way I look at Whitmer, versus seeing him as this weird Nixonian figure. Was I got the book The Last Politician by Franklin Foer, and this is how it opens. I have the first two paragraphs. It says Joe Biden's inauguration was an image in his mind. It took hold there decades earlier, and it looked something like a brisk winter's day, and a nation's establishment huddled around him, wrapping its arms around the kid from Scranton. It was a triumphalist scene, but also a revenge fantasy, since Washington's liberal elite had long rolled his eyes at him, and he knew it. The constant underestimation of Joe Biden was his diesel. It propelled him to keep chasing the image over the course of 3 presidential runs. He pursued it into his late 70s, even though diminishingly few of his peers considered it plausible, and even though his inability to surrender his ambitions occasionally verged on the undignified. That is a description of Richard Nixon.
Yeah. If Richard Nixon had to shoo off the visage of death every 20 minutes, if Richard Nixon had to tell the boat at the River Styx, hold on, I'm doing something.
Don't pay the ferryman.
This is an issue in 2020. You guys talked about it too. The whole Democratic primary. Biden was still pretty old. He was sharper, and he did not lose his place like he did in this debate all the time. He had mediocre debates, but he wasn't just saying he had the old you were starting to see the beginnings of fading to a non-conclusion, going anyway. He was already doing that, but he wasn't this bad. And the argument clearly, this obviously everyone probably, the argument was, yes, he's old, but he can save democracy. We all need to pull in to save democracy, and that's obviously been lost. Where Democrats are now panicking that Biden will just by their own dictates will destroy democracy. And they're frustrated because Biden seems to be cloistering with Hunter, among other people. The fact that Hunter's there at all, that's enough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And saying, it's risking democracy because I know how to do the job and I don't trust anyone, including my hand-picked vice president, to do this for me. So he's gone from a elder statesman who they brought in from retirement to save them to somebody they are starting really quickly to have contempt for.
The Hunter stuff is amazing.
Dave, you mentioned Hunter. This is from the Peter Baker, Katie Rogers piece. It says, one of the strongest voices imploring Mr. Biden to resist pressure to drop out was his son, Hunter Biden, whom the president has long leaned on for advice. said one of the people informed about the discussions, who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to share internal deliberations. Hunter Biden wants Americans to see the version of the father that he knows, scrappy and in command of the facts, rather than the stumbling, aging president Americans saw on Thursday night. I mean, to that, I would add, Hunter, if you want to help your dad out here, you got to call the guy. Because if you want him to be, up after 4 p.m., he's going to need some of those moon rocks and sleep boxes that you've been keeping you up and going strong. Yeah, but then just write one more paragraph where it says, other family members are trying to figure out how they could be helpful. At least one of the president's grandchildren has expressed interest in getting more involved with the campaign, perhaps by talking with influencers on social media, according to an informed person. So they're bringing the grandkids off the bench for this, but it really is like a Biden family versus everyone else dynamic going on right now.
I love that so much.
If there was a JFK deep state, I'm not saying there isn't. If there was one that was just ready to go, oiled up and attacking him, it would go after the family right now, because Biden's actually got a pretty good, I'd say, a pass from the press compared to some people who have family problems and they can't keep it out of tabloids. Hillary Clinton's ne'er-do-well brother, things like that. Biden has 2 kids. He had Beau that lost, devastated him, and because of that, people in the media, fairly easy on the fact that he has 2 kids who have screwed up big time and left documents in places that detailed their various screw-ups, affairs, drug addictions, etc. And this clearly hurts him. And again, if somebody, you have to kind of read between the lines of what is in these papers, who is saying what. I don't think you're ever going to say, if a Democrat say, look, a guy who raised two drug addicts can't possibly be president. But this is what is bristling now. They have really been pretty chill about the way Biden's family have. I would say this: they're embracing some Republican arguments about the Biden family, because on the right, you could say for 4 years, Jill Biden is puppeting him like a Oscar the Grouch, and Hunter's a screw up, and Obama's really running the country. There are lots of things Republicans said about Biden that Democrats said, that is obviously crazy, and we're not going to embrace that. If you start seeing more attacks on the family, I think you can assume this is coming from people who are just ripping the tape off and saying, that's it. We put up with too much of this. This guy has weaknesses. We need to exploit them.
Yeah, left-wing anti-Hunterism is going to be nuts. Like, they're going to start saying that, like, he's enabling Israel, like he enabled Hunter.